Chapter 50. Ringo was stirring the pot when she heard the word Internet, and her hand shook, almost dropping the utensils to the ground. Internet was a word she had only read about in history books. Tian's eyes flickered slightly as she looked at Tiao Jiajin, her expression serious. She asked, Tiao, last time you said, what year were you born? I told you, didn't I? 79. Tiao Jiajin said nonchalantly, scratching his nose with a finger. 1979. Why? Tian slowly stood up, cautiously staring into Tiao Jiajin's eyes. You're not joking with me, are you? If you were really born in 79, you should be in your 40s by now. Ringo was also surprised and turned to Tian. That doesn't seem right. Tizhao, ignoring the ongoing argument, served himself a bowl of meat. Jin furrowed his brow, finding Tian's words hard to comprehend. Tian, what's wrong with you? Starved silly? How could a vibrant young man like me look like I'm in my 40s? Indeed, he didn't look 40. Judging by his appearance and physical condition, it was impossible for him to be over 40. Who had been listening to the conversation, remained silent, much like Tizhao. Ringo's lips moved slightly as she asked, Tiyao Jiajin, what year is it now? Tiyao Jin stared at her suspiciously. 2006. Of course. He turned and noticed both Tian and Ringo staring at him in disbelief, feeling even more perplexed. Why are you all staring at me? Ringo sensed that something strange was going on. She turned to Tian and asked, what year are you from? I'm from 2019, Tian said, her brows furrowed. What's going on? Feeling weak, Ringo slowly sat down and said, everyone, I'm from 2068. What? Tiyao Jin exclaimed in shock. 2068? Tizhao silently nodded to himself. Yes, it made sense now that she seemed like someone from the future. Everything began to add up. In her time, people had to wear masks from a young age, and they became as common as everyday clothing. This explained why she acted awkward when not wearing one, as if she were undressed. With the rapid development of the internet, she didn't need to know what a flyer was. Digital ads would be enough to overwhelm anyone. Tizhao shook his head quietly, surprised that everyone had finally noticed the issue. This is even weirder now. Tian's lips trembled slightly. She looked around and said, we're not from the same year. Yet we've all gathered here on the same day. Could this really be the work of God? Ringo couldn't believe it either. If we're not from the same year, then the earthquake we experienced before coming here isn't the same either. She looked at Tiyao Jiajin, but I don't recall any large-scale earthquakes in your region during my time. And you? Tian suddenly asked Tizhao. What year are you from? I'm from 2022, Tizhao replied. What's going on? Tiyao Jiajin's head spun. This is insane. You're the smart one. Can't you figure this out? Tizhao shook his head. Any theory he knew couldn't explain this. Why were they all from different time periods? Was the God who selected them choosing people randomly? Or was it deliberate? What was the time span between the participants? No matter what, we'll only be together here for 10 days. Tizhao said as he looked out the window at the dark red sky, his gaze firm. Whether this is the work of God or not, I don't care. Right now, I just want to fill my stomach and find more doubt. If you're too caught up in this, I don't recommend digging for the truth. Hearing his words, the group slowly sat down. Yes, Tizhao was right. They had to leave this place. No matter what year each of them came from, they all shared the same goal, escaping this wretched place and returning to their own lives. If they spent days investigating the time issue, they'd be going against their ultimate objective. The 5 of them gathered small bowls from the restaurant, each ladling out some meat soup. Even so, their expressions remained uneasy. This place held mystery upon mystery, and there were countless questions they wanted answers to. But as Tizhao said, seeking the truth would waste valuable time. What was more important, the truth or escape? Yeah? Let's not think about it. TNT and tired. Haven't we been through enough bizarre things already? Ringo and Kaiyao Jin exchanged glances and then helplessly shook their heads. Tian took an old spatula and began tearing off pieces of bear meat from the arm, dividing it among everyone's bowls. The bear arm had been stewing for so long that it was falling apart. With just a gentle tug, the meat separated from the bones, releasing a rich aroma as steam filled the air, making everyone's noses tingle. Smelled pretty good. Kaiyao Jin swallowed, reaching for his bowl. Tisha held his bowl in his hands, but didn't move. He glanced at Zhao Xi out of the corner of his eye and, seeing that she had started eating, waited a bit longer. Once he was sure the food was safe, he tore off a strip of the bear meat. He brought the meat to his nose and sniffed. It smelled delicious. Then he tossed it into his mouth and bit down. Hot meat juices burst forth, scalding his mouth. Tisha was burned by the heat and quickly exhaled a few puffs of air. He chewed the meat a bit before swallowing. It tasted awful. He never imagined bear meat could be so unpleasant. The texture was greasy and fatty, and after a few bites, his mouth was filled with a game-wide, musky taste. Maybe it was because they had no seasoning, or maybe bear meat just tasted like this. But Quiche all lost interest after the first bite. He glanced at Ringo beside him. She too was frowning, her face scrunched up like she had bitten into a sour lemon. Jin and Tian, however, didn't seem phased. They were chewing away at their food, occasionally glancing at the others. What's the matter? Doesn't taste good? Jin asked. What do you think? He responded. Or different time periods also mean different taste, but it's pretty bad. Yeah, Jin said through a mouthful of meat. But we have to survive, don't we? Hey, you ever eaten leftovers from the trash when you were a kid? Tijal found his comment amusing. He put down his bowl and said with a smirk, Jin, you seem to have quite the extensive menu. You've not only eaten bear paw but also trash. Watch your mouth. Jin shoved another big piece of meat into his mouth. You know I'm older than you, right? From now on, call me Uncle Kiao. I've eaten more garbage in my life than you've eaten bear paws. I'll say it again. I've never eaten bear paw, nor garbage. TNT and Ringo burst into laughter at their banter, making the meal feel a little lighter. Yes, no matter what year they came from, they were this moment. Tija stopped bickering with Kiao Jin and ate a few more pieces of meat from his bowl. No matter how bad it tasted, eating something was better than going hungry. They didn't know what kind of challenges lay ahead, so they needed to stay strong. A bear's paw was sitting in Xia's bowl. He had assumed the famed bear paw would be different from the other parts of the meat, but after just one bite, he got this part was even fattier and more unpalatable, like eating a lump of greasy jelly with a strong game-wise stench. Did the ancients really consider this a delicacy?